Man, bro, did a song with Lil Ty. Man, shut y'all pussy ass, bitch ass, ain't gonna do shit ass niggas up, man. All that crying and shit by the fucking song, man. Get some fucking money.
Chief Keef just shocked everyone. He teamed up with NBA YoungBoy, the main rival of O-Block, and now word on the street is that his own people are plotting to sneak him out. OTF members are blowing up social media, saying they're done with Sosa, and this drama's turning dangerous fast. But here's the wild part that most people don't even realize. Keef been cut ties with O-Block for years now, and we're breaking down exactly why he turned his back on the block that made him a legend. Chief Keef used to be the face of O-Block, the drill pioneer who put Chicago on the global map. But over time, the love from his own block twisted into betrayal. That new link-up with NBA YoungBoy didn't just make OTF furious, it brought years of quiet tension right into the light. To really understand how Sosa went from O-Block royalty to public enemy #1, we gotta rewind and trace how it all fell apart. Let's take it back to the early 2000s, when Keef was just Keith Cozart, a kid from Parkway Gardens, known to everyone as O-Block. Back in those days, Keef was locked in with his crew, King Von, Boss Top, Trey 5, and the rest of the gang. These weren't just rap buddies, these were his real ones, the same dudes he grew up with in the trenches, where every day felt like survival mode. The loyalty they shared was serious. They were all black disciples, all from the same side, moving as one family in a city that showed no mercy. Even as a kid, Keef's talent was already shining. He'd be freestyling on that little karaoke mic, while Von was building a name for himself in the streets. Boss Top was like the big bro everyone respected, and Trey 5 had the kind of reputation that made people stay alert. This was before fame, before money, just a group of young hustlers trying to make it out alive from one of Chicago's roughest blocks. These dudes went through everything together, shootouts, police raids, and all the madness that came with street life. When one of them got locked up, the whole squad was ready to ride, no hesitation. Keef and King Von shared something even deeper though, a bond that went way beyond music. Von was already a name in the streets, while Keef was locked in the studio, building that signature sound that would change music forever. They hung out non-stop, two wild young guys living fast and doing things we can't even talk about on camera. Their connection was solid, not just homies, but brothers for real. But everything flipped the moment Keef dropped I Don't Like in 2012. That track didn't just go viral, it blew the entire rap world wide open. We're talking about a song that gave birth to drill as we know it today. Millions of views poured in. Kanye West jumped on the remix, and suddenly, this kid from Chicago was the hottest name in the country. When that Interscope deal hit, reportedly worth around $6 million, Keef went from being broke in Parkway Gardens to having superstar money overnight. But that's where the real problem started. Change changed the way Sosa moved, and the first major move he made was to dip out of Chicago and head straight to LA. And if you know the code in O-Block, you know how that looks. When one of your own makes it out, he's supposed to lift his whole crew too. That's like an unwritten law in the hood. You don't forget the same people who held you down when you had nothing. But Keef made a move that would haunt him for years. Instead of bringing Von, Boss Top, and the rest of the O-Block homies, he only took his blood cousins, Tato and Ball Out from Glow Gang. From a business standpoint, it made sense. Family is family, and Keef probably felt he could only really trust his own blood. But from a street perspective, that choice hit deep. It felt like betrayal.
That's not a joint, that's a damn formatting. Always smoking, I think I'm in a joint and I ride with a baddie. You know I'm up like a motherfucking addict. Do, you know we ain't like it. Do not run up, some bad can happen. You know the money gon' come with the madness. And what I claim gon' come with the baggage. We have our cutters, we come with the hatches. For them gas switches, they come with them big cabins. We do the shit that the rappers do.
The same people who risked everything for him, who fought beside him, who had his back no matter what, were now watching him live it up in Hollywood without him. And that's when the whispers started. Resentment, jealousy, and heartbreak all mixed into one explosive situation. So when Keef finally blew up and got a shot at the big time, he started moving like his old crew didn't even exist. That's when the tension really started building up. According to people close to the situation, O-Block members were expecting Keef to look out, put him on his payroll, help him lock down record deals, or at least fly him out to LA so they could be part of the movement. But Sosa was on a whole different wavelength now. He was focused on cutting ties with the street life that made him famous in the first place. And honestly, you can't fully blame him. The man had just signed a multi-million-dollar deal, and getting tangled up in hood politics could have ruined everything. Still, the homies didn't see it like that. To them, it felt like Sosa let fame change him, like he forgot who held him down before the world knew his name. That's when everything turned dark. And this next situation, it's the one that completely destroyed his relationship with O-Block for good. One of the most respected names from the block, Trey 5, got locked up on a heavy charge and needed $25,000 for bond. This wasn't some random guy. Trey 5 was allegedly one of O-Block's most feared shooters, someone who had gone to war for that block and for Keef himself back in the day. The crew knew they had to bring him home, so they got to work fast, hustling, hitting licks, doing whatever it took to raise the money. After grinding non-stop, they managed to come up with around $18,000, but they were still $7,000 short, and the clock was ticking. That's when they decided to hit up their rich homie, Chief Keef. From their point of view, this should have been nothing, a small favor. $7 grand was pocket change to Sosa, and this was for someone who had literally protected him back when he was still that kid from the projects. At first, Keef said he'd handle it, no hesitation. The block felt a wave of relief, finally thinking their day one was about to come through and prove he was still solid. People even started celebrating early, talking about how Sosa's still real, he didn't forget us. But then, out of nowhere, Keef went completely ghost. No calls, no texts, no replies, nothing. He disappeared like they never even existed. The crew kept reaching out, hoping it was a misunderstanding, but Sosa stayed silent. That moment cut deep because it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about loyalty, respect, and the feeling that their own superstar had turned his back on him forever. While all that drama was going down, Chief Keef was out here on Instagram and Twitter living it up, showing off his luxury lifestyle like nothing was wrong. He was flexing flashy cars, stacks of jewelry, and even bragging about spending $10,000 on a four-wheeler, more than enough to get his homie out of jail. The disrespect was wild. His people were struggling to scrape together bond money, and meanwhile, their so-called brother was online flashing cash and flexing for likes. That's when the anger inside O-Block really started boiling over. They felt betrayed, humiliated, and straight up abandoned by the same person they once called family. So when it became clear that Keef wasn't coming through, Boss Top, King Von, and a few others made a heavy decision. They were done waiting. They decided to handle it themselves, and what they planned next would destroy whatever loyalty was left. They decided to rob Chief Keef. And this wasn't some random hit by strangers. This was personal. These were the same dudes who grew up with him, who knew every detail about how he moved, where he stayed, and what he owned. They broke into the house Keef was renting with his manager, and once they got inside, things got out of control fast. It turned into a full-blown robbery. They grabbed everything they could: jewelry, clothes, designer shoes, even small stuff like deodorant and his daughter's diapers. It was pure chaos. But the most shocking part? Boss Top allegedly snatched Keef's chain right off his neck during the whole ordeal. That wasn't just about stealing, that was a message. In the streets, taking someone's chain as a sign of complete disrespect. It meant they didn't see Sosa as their leader anymore. But what made it even worse was what happened next. During the chaos, one of Keef's own homies got shot. The details around who pulled the trigger are still murky, but one thing's clear: things turned deadly serious. This wasn't some petty grab-and-go situation anymore. It became a violent showdown between brothers. By the time it was over, the crew had taken what they wanted and the damage was done. Not just to Keef's property, but to his heart and his loyalty. That single night turned the bond between Sosa and O-Block into a war that would never be the same again. After the robbery, the crew used that stolen money to bond out Trey 5, finally getting their homie back on the streets. In their eyes, the mission was complete. They had done what they set out to do. But even though they achieved their goal, the damage was already done. The trust was shattered, the loyalty was gone, and the brotherhood that once held them together was broken for good. Keef's ex-manager allegedly called the cops during the robbery, but when the police pulled up, nobody said a word. That's how it goes. The street code stays solid. You don't talk to the law, even if you're the victim. But that silence didn't mean forgiveness. Keef knew exactly who had crossed him, and he wasn't ever gonna forget it. Still, what came next made that robbery look small compared to what was about to unfold. According to several street sources and insider accounts, things got way darker. King Von was allegedly linked to the death of Keef's own cousin, Blood Money. And this is where the story turns deep, tragic, and twisted. Blood Money, whose real name was Mario Hess, was more than just family. He was part of Keef's Front Street crew and one of his day one supporters. Sadly, in 2014, he was shot and killed, and for years, nobody knew for sure what really happened or who was behind it. The official story said it was just another hit in the endless Chicago gang wars, but the streets had a different theory. Whispers started spreading fast. King Von's name kept popping up in connection to Blood Money's murder. People online began digging through old tweets, posts, and interviews from that time, piecing together what they believed really went down. Some said Von did it out of retaliation, maybe over something Blood Money said or did. But another theory, one that hit way harder, claimed Von allegedly did it as a personal message to hurt Chief Keef directly. Think about it. This happened right when Keef's bond with O-Block was collapsing. Betrayal, anger, and pride were already in the air. And then suddenly, his cousin, his blood, gets taken out under mysterious circumstances. The timing was too wild to ignore. And then came the most chilling part. After Blood Money's death, Von allegedly posted some cryptic messages online that seemed to reference the situation. In one post, he said, "I'm King Von from O-Block. I run shit," which many believed was a twisted flip of a lyric from one of Blood Money's own tracks, like Von was claiming dominance over the tragedy. To make it even more suspicious, a woman named Kai, who was rumored to have some connection to Blood Money's murder, was killed just days before Von made that post. The timing had everyone talking. It felt like the streets were sending messages in blood, not words. From that moment on, whatever was left between Chief Keef and O-Block was dead, not just figuratively, but literally. What started as brotherhood had now turned into heartbreak, revenge, and a story so dark it still shakes Chicago to this day. Some people think Von was celebrating the fact that the person who allegedly killed Blood Money got taken out, but others believe Von himself had a direct hand in Blood Money's death. Street insider Jay Hood, who's spoken in multiple interviews about Chicago's inner politics, claimed that during this time, Von and T. Roy were moving under Boss Top's direction. If Boss Top had beef with Keef and wanted to send a powerful message, Von and T. Roy were the ones who would have carried it out.
That's where this theory turns dark, real dark. It suggests Von didn't just rob Chief Keef, he allegedly killed his family member too. That's a line that can never be crossed. And if it's true, it explains why Keef's anger toward his old crew runs so deep even today. And we saw the proof years later. When King Von was tragically killed in Atlanta in November 2020, Chief Keef didn't post a single thing. No RIP, no Instagram story, no tweet, nothing. Total silence. And remember, this wasn't some random rapper. This was the same dude Keef grew up with, the same one he used to hang with daily back in O-Block. But when Von died, Sosa acted like he never existed. That silence spoke louder than any words ever could. In Chicago and the rap world in general, when someone from your circle passes away, it's almost tradition to show love. You post memories, you say your goodbyes, you keep their name alive. But Keef's silence, that confirmed what the streets already knew. Their relationship was long dead before Von ever got shot. It went even deeper than that. In old interviews, Von mentioned that he and Keef had recorded songs together back in the early days, but Keef never released any of them. Not one track ever saw the light of day. That's how personal the tension was. Sosa would rather let fire music collect dust forever than help Von gain attention or profit off their past connection. And when the news of Von's death hit the internet, every major Chicago name, from Lil Durk to Polo G, and even a few rivals were posting tributes and paying their respects. Meanwhile, Keef stayed completely quiet. Not a single post, not a single comment, nothing.
It was like he was saying, I don't care that he's gone, without having to say a word. That cold silence showed just how deep the wound still ran. Keef wasn't just hurt, he was done. Everything that happened, the betrayal, the robbery, the rumors, the bloodshed, had turned what used to be brotherhood into something darker than anyone could have imagined. Fast forward to 2024, and Chief Keef just pulled a move that shook the entire Chicago drill scene to its core. Out of nowhere, he linked up in the studio with NBA YoungBoy, and the two actually made music together. Now, to outsiders, that might just sound like another collab, but if you know the politics, you know this was huge. This wasn't just Keef working with some random rapper. This was him connecting with Lil Durk and OTF's biggest enemy. The feud between NBA YoungBoy and Lil Durk has been one of the most explosive rivalries in hip-hop for years. Diss tracks flying back and forth, violent encounters between crews, and real-life consequences that left scars on both sides. So when Keef, the same dude who came from O-Block, suddenly popped up in the studio with YoungBoy, it was like dropping a nuclear bomb right in the middle of Chicago's street politics. When that studio footage hit the internet, showing Keef and YB chilling, laughing, and vibing like old friends, fans instantly knew this wasn't just a quick collab for clout. This was a statement. The chemistry looked too real, too genuine. Keef wasn't just making a song, he was showing everyone that he didn't care about anyone's expectations or opinions back home. From Keef's point of view, the timing couldn't have been better. For years, he'd stayed neutral, keeping his distance from the whole Durk versus YoungBoy war. He probably figured staying peace was the smartest move, but something clearly shifted. Maybe it was time, maybe it was pride, or maybe he was just done pretending to pick peace. Whatever it was, Keef made a choice, and it wasn't his Chicago homies. Once that footage spread across social media, OTF members and O-Block affiliates lost it. Their reaction was immediate and brutal. Instagram stories, tweets, and cryptic posts started flooding in, making it clear that Keef had officially crossed a line that could never be uncrossed.
The message couldn't have been clearer. If you're with YoungBoy, you're against us. No middle ground. Some OTF affiliates even posted, "We don't mess with that type of movement," and Sosa switched sides. The energy was cold, angry, and personal. What made it even heavier was that this wasn't just random internet chatter. People close to the situation, ones who knew the deep history between Keef and O-Block, started speaking out too. They weren't mincing words, they were straight up saying this was the final straw, the move that ended any chance of peace or reconciliation. After years of quietly keeping their distance from Keef, the OTF camp finally snapped. They didn't care about history, fame, or music. This was about loyalty. And from their perspective, Sosa had just thrown it away. By teaming up with YoungBoy, Chief Keef didn't just make a song, he reignited one of the most dangerous rivalries in the game and proved once and for all that he was moving on from Chicago politics completely. The city felt betrayed, the internet went crazy, and Keef, he looked unbothered, like he'd been waiting years to make this statement loud and clear. What made OTF's reaction so explosive wasn't just the music itself, it was what it represented. To them, this wasn't about a studio session or a beat. This was personal. In their eyes, Chief Keef had made a conscious choice to team up with a man who'd been beefing with their crew, dissing their fallen homies, and standing for everything they'd been fighting against for years. But Chief Keef's camp wasn't about to sit back and take that kind of disrespect. Glow Gang, Keef's own label and loyal circle, came firing back instantly, making it crystal clear that they didn't care one bit about what OTF thought. One Glow Gang member jumped online and posted, "We don't care what OTF got going on," basically telling them to mind their own business and stop worrying about Sosa's moves. The post came off cold and dismissive, almost taunting, showing that Glow Gang wasn't intimidated or backing down from anyone. Another Glow Gang affiliate took things even further, straight up laughing at the situation online. They dropped laughing emojis, cracked jokes, and treated the whole thing like it was comedy. To them, it was entertainment, and that attitude made OTF even more furious. The more serious OTF got, the more Glow Gang clowned them online, making the divide between the two sides grow even wider.
Then came the wildest twist. One Glow Gang insider claimed that Keef and YoungBoy didn't just make one track together, they made 7. 6 unreleased songs still sitting in the vault, ready to drop at any moment. That revelation changed everything. That meant this wasn't a random link-up, it was the start of a real partnership. If that's true, it shows Keef's long game. He's not chasing approval from Chicago anymore. Glow Gang has been winning on their own terms for years, dropping hits, running their brand, and stacking money without needing OTF or the city's cosign. Their message was loud and clear. They built their own empire, made their own moves, and they don't need anyone's validation. In fact, Glow Gang members even hinted that working with YB was way more profitable and strategic than teaming up with anyone from Chicago right now. To them, it wasn't betrayal, it was business. They see Keef's partnership with YoungBoy as smart, not scandalous, a power move meant to boost his career and his money. From their point of view, if old friends can't handle that, that's their issue to figure out. Keef's mindset seems focused on one thing: progress, even if it means leaving emotional ties in the past. But just when everyone thought it couldn't get crazier, it did. Lou Tim, the man who famously killed King Von in Atlanta, jumped into the mix and started co-signing Keef's link-up with YoungBoy. He posted content online basically showing love to the move, and that's where things went from tense to downright dangerous. Think about that. The same guy who took Von's life was now publicly supporting Chief Keef, a move that instantly added another layer of chaos to the situation. For OTF, that was beyond disrespect. It was a slap in the face. Seeing Tim side with Keef felt like the ultimate betrayal, one that blurred the lines between music beef and real-life street warfare.
Lil Tim's involvement made it clear this situation wasn't just about songs or clout. It was about power, loyalty, and legacy. His response showed just how tangled these Chicago and Baton Rouge connections have become, linking together multiple rivalries, heartbreaks, and losses into one explosive moment that the rap world won't forget anytime soon. Lil Tim backing up Chief Keef wasn't just random support. It hinted that there might be way more going on behind the scenes than anyone realizes. Maybe Tim knows something deeper about the history between Keef and Von, something that makes him feel like Sosa's moves are justified. Or maybe he's just trying to stir the pot and keep the drama alive. Either way, when King Von's killer publicly co-signs your move against Von's own crew, that sends a chilling message to everyone watching. It's almost like Tim was saying, even I get why Keef turned his back on him. That's wild. But to really understand why this entire situation has the streets and the internet going crazy, you've got to look beneath the surface. This isn't just about rap beef for money. This is about respect, loyalty, and street codes that people in Chicago live and die by every single day. From Chief Keef's perspective, he feels he has every right to move how he wants. Let's be real, his own people robbed him, allegedly killed his cousin, and showed zero loyalty when he needed them the most. This is the same man who put O-Block on the global map, who made their name known in every corner of the world. And after all that, they paid him back with betrayal and violence. From his point of view, cutting them off wasn't shady, it was self-defense. But from O-Block's perspective, it looks completely different. They believe Keef abandoned them the moment he got rich. He left the trenches for Los Angeles, took only his blood relatives, and never looked back. When his day one homies needed him, like when they were trying to bail out Trey 5, Keef ignored their calls. To them, it wasn't just about money, it was about loyalty. They saw a superstar who forgot the people who helped build him from the ground up. And the truth? It probably sits somewhere right in the middle. Keef likely did get caught up in the fame and distance himself to protect his career. And honestly, who wouldn't, considering how dangerous things had gotten? But at the same time, O-Block probably had unrealistic expectations, thinking Keef owed his fortune just because they grew up together. They wanted him to be the savior of the block, while he was trying to save himself. That's what makes this feud so explosive. Both sides feel completely justified. Keef believes he was betrayed first, so every move he makes now, linking with YoungBoy,
cutting ties, ignoring OTF, is his version of payback. Meanwhile, O-Block feels like Keef betrayed them first, so robbing him and disowning him was fair game in their eyes. It's a vicious cycle where nobody's willing to back down or admit they were wrong. And this tension doesn't just affect the streets, it's reshaping the entire music industry too. Chief Keef isn't just another rapper, he's the godfather of drill, the one who created the very sound that made Chicago famous around the world. His beats, his style, his influence, it all birthed a movement. So for him to turn his back on Chicago and link up with their biggest enemies isn't just personal, it's a seismic shift in the drill game's power dynamics. What once started as a neighborhood beef has now become a global story, one that's redefining what loyalty, power, and legacy mean in modern hip-hop. And at the center of it all is Chief Keef, the man who built the drill empire, and the same one now tearing down its old walls to build something entirely new. This whole situation proves one brutal truth: even the biggest icons in hip-hop can't escape the street politics that keep tearing their own communities apart. Chief Keef, the man who built the drill sound from the ground up, is now teaming up with NBA YoungBoy, and that move just shifted the balance of power in the rap game. By working with the creator of drill music, YoungBoy just earned serious credibility in his ongoing beef with Chicago's top artists. Having Chief Keef, the face of the entire movement, on his side, that's a major win. It's like YoungBoy just got the ultimate stamp of approval, and it probably made him even more confident about going head-to-head with Lil Durk and OTF.
But for Chicago rappers, this created a massive dilemma. Do they still show love to Keef, the godfather who paved the way for their sound, or do they cut him off for working with the enemy? For most of them, the answer is simple: loyalty over legacy. They'll ride with their crews before showing any respect to someone they now see as a traitor. And that's where things get dangerous, because this isn't some harmless internet argument. This is real street politics with real consequences. In Chicago, when you cross certain lines, it's not just talk. Retaliation can get deadly. The fact that OTF members are publicly disowning Keef shows just how serious it's gotten. This isn't about business or ego anymore. This is about loyalty, respect, and revenge in a culture where people have literally died for less. When you turn your back on your own block and start linking with their biggest enemies, that's considered the ultimate betrayal in street culture. And right now, that's exactly how O-Block sees it. But here's the twist: Chief Keef doesn't seem to care anymore. He's been in LA for years now, far from the chaos, surrounded by security, building his empire on his own terms. He's grown into a boss who moves strategically, not emotionally. Keef's probably already done the math. He knows he's too far removed to face any real consequences from the streets, and at this point, he's willing to risk it all just to make his point loud and clear. The real question now is, will this beef stay online, limited to disses and subtweets, or will it spill into the streets like so many Chicago rivalries before? Given the violent history tied to drill culture and how deeply personal this feud has become, the risk of it turning ugly is always there. What makes this situation even scarier is how interconnected it all is. This isn't just one beef, it's multiple conflicts crashing together. You've got Keef versus O-Block, Durk versus YoungBoy, and ongoing tension between different Chicago sets that's been building for years. Now all those rivalries are colliding, and that kind of overlap can make everything spiral out of control. At the end of the day, Chief Keef's decision to work with NBA YoungBoy represents more than just a studio session. It's the final break between him and his Chicago roots. After years of betrayal, backstabbing, and unresolved tension, Sosa has finally made his choice, and it's not with the block that made him famous. This moment marks the end of an era. Chief Keef isn't just sending a message to O-Block and OTF, he's sending it to the entire industry. He's showing the world that he doesn't need validation from his city anymore. He doesn't need their approval, their support, or their respect. By standing next to YoungBoy, Keef is proving that he's beyond the politics, beyond the drama. He's his own boss now. This wasn't just about one collab, one picture, or one post. It was the result of years of tension finally boiling over. Chief Keef is telling everyone, from Chicago to Baton Rouge to the entire rap world, that he's moving how he wants, working with who he wants, and he's not looking back. The streets are locked in, the fans are split down the middle, and this beef is far from over. With 6 unreleased tracks rumored to be sitting in the vault,
Chief Keef and NBA YoungBoy are only getting started. The studio chemistry, the energy, the tension, it all points to one thing. This collaboration is about to shake the game even harder. Meanwhile, OTF and O-Block are standing firm, making it loud and clear that there's no coming back from what they see as the ultimate betrayal.
What's tragic about all this is how it shows the destructive side of street politics and hip-hop. Chief Keef could have been the bridge, the one to unite Chicago under one banner, but instead, he's become the enemy of his own city. The same streets that made him a star are now the same ones turning their backs on him. That kind of fallout, you can't just fix it with a post or a shout-out. It's broken, maybe forever. For the younger generation coming up in Chicago, this entire saga should hit as a cautionary tale, a lesson about loyalty, betrayal, and how fast things can spiral when money, fame, and street pride collide. It shows how friendships can rot from the inside when respect gets replaced by greed and ego. What once was brotherhood has turned into warfare, and the scars it leaves will last for years. But this story isn't just a Chicago problem, it's a hip-hop culture problem. Across the world, artists, fans, and insiders are watching this play out like a live movie because it exposes something bigger, the question of authenticity versus survival, and whether loyalty can still exist in a game fueled by fame. Chief Keef's decision to choose himself, to chase his own bag and his own peace over staying loyal to his old block might change how future artists handle their own success. It's sending a message. In this industry, nobody's loyalty is guaranteed, and when it comes to survival, every man's for himself. One thing's for sure, the Chicago drill scene will never be the same again. The one-time king of O-Block has officially become its biggest enemy, and in a city where loyalty is everything, that's a line you can't uncross. The situation's getting hotter by the day. More songs are coming, more reactions are dropping, and every post, every lyric, every collab is sparking new waves of tension. This isn't just about music anymore. It's about legacy, pride, and revenge. The deeper you look, the more layers you see. Personal betrayal, street codes, industry competition, and pure regional pride all tangled together. And when those forces collide, the results are unpredictable and dangerous. As this story keeps unfolding, every move will be dissected, every track drop, every interview, every bar will be studied for clues. Will someone back down, or will it all spiral until someone crosses the point of no return? History says it's not cooling off anytime soon, because when Chicago beef gets this personal, it doesn't just fade away, it explodes. Chief Keef just lit the fuse on a bomb that's been ticking for over a decade, and the world's watching to see what happens next. These kinds of feuds don't just change careers, they shape hip-hop history, destroy bonds, and sometimes take lives. The only question now is, how far will it go? And can anyone stop it before it turns deadly? Knowing Chicago's drill culture and the pride behind it, this might just be the beginning of a new chapter in a long war that's been brewing for years. One thing's for sure, it's about to get even more explosive. And we'll be right here breaking down every twist, every update, and every shocking moment as it happens. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share this video, and drop a comment below, because this story isn't ending anytime soon, and you won't want to miss what happens next.